Hello, ladies. My name is Tony, the Self-Care Maven. Welcome to Freedom at the Crossroads here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, click the notification button. Having said that, welcome to a new episode. Today, as usual, I am going to be talking about self-care, but I'm talking about self-care that is tailored to Black women to meet our unique needs. Now, I've spoken on this before, particularly in an earlier interview with Tia Nikki from Tia Nikki Travels, where I spoke about the differences between the colonized version of self-care that is popularized in mainstream media versus the kind of accessible self-care for Black people, Black women, particularly from the diaspora and beyond, are unique needs and how we need to navigate, especially given the political climate that we are experiencing right now. Now, having said that, self-care is a powerful, powerful strategy, tool, kit, if you will, to up-level your life, particularly as women. When we consider the conditioning that women have been subjected to generationally over the centuries, it's important that we understand that self-care interrupts patterns of conditioning. That's just the nature of it. And that's why typically you get so much pushback when you begin to implement these processes in your life, particularly as a woman. Let's not be confused. When you begin your self-care journey, you have to understand that you are going to come up against opposing forces simply because you are beginning to not just create space for yourself, but your voice, care, and health journey. And as I said, the unique thing, one of the hallmarks of self-care, particularly as a woman, when you begin to implement those processes, that toolkit, those structures that make up self-care, understand that there will be pushback. Pushback because you are reclaiming parts of yourself that you've given away. Pushback because you are no longer making space for deprioritizing self. You are no longer making space for oppression, for subjugation, for anything that limits or detracts from your personal power and autonomy as a human being. And that is something that the world we live in, the patriarchal world that we live in, that's rife with misogyny, anti-Blackness, all of the oppressive forces and institutions that have historically marginalized women, particularly Black women, understand that there's going to be pushback. So when I speak of decolonizing your self-care or a decolonized self-care that is uniquely tailored to the needs of Black women, this is what I'm talking about. We as a people, as a collective, understand that we are a people at various crossroads. We have so many points of intersectionality that we're just unique in that regard. Granted, it's not fair, and if we lived in a perfect world, there would be no anti-Blackness. There would be no fear and hatred of other. There would be none of the strife that we see across the globe, this scramble to exploit and extort resources and labor from people who don't look like, say, for instance, a certain group. But we live in reality. And one thing you're going to find out about me, if you don't know me here, the Self-Care Maven, if you don't know my message and my passion for Black women in the diaspora and on the continent, this is an uncomfortable space. I know, I recognize and I understand that I am not for everyone, because what? I have been radicalized. I've been radicalized by my childhood living on the continent. I've been radicalized living here in the diaspora in North America as a young teenage girl and young woman, growing and becoming more self-aware, being subjected to various experiences that have shaped my outlook and my positioning, as well as my qualifications when it comes to dealing with self-care in this space. I say I am, and I own the fact that I am a self-care and health coach for Black women because of my experiences of women in my lineage, experiences of women in my community. And I recognize that there is a huge gap that puts us at a disadvantage when it comes to living our best lives, to living fulfilled lives, to living healthy lives. And that doesn't have to be our story. Our ancestors wanted better for us. They bled, they labored, they fought for so much better for us. And yet, it's disheartening to see that a number of those struggles and those accomplishments that they achieved, there are active institutions and groups of people, because of that hatred, because of their own issues and projections. I'm not going to go into that because, again, that is not my focus. That is not my demographic. That is not my area of interest. But you understand, as a Black woman, as a person of color, that we have work to do if we're going to get beyond survival mode, if we're going to have better healthcare outcomes, if we're going to live to our full potential and bring out and flower the gifts that we have been uniquely imbued with as women and as people. So I need us to understand that. And that's why I wanted to speak a little bit more on this in terms of understanding the implications of going into the process of self-care. It's so easy to get lulled into the colonized version of self-care that doesn't recognize the fact that there are consequences to self-care. As a Black woman, I need you to understand that. I don't want to scare you. I just want you to be aware that when it comes to self-care as a Black woman, you have to be aware of consequences, and those consequences will ultimately color and structure the way you self-care, because of our unique circumstances that we as women have to navigate. Those same factors that we have to navigate, our self-care has to be tailored, and it has to encompass and take those things into account. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to touch on 3 things to be aware of when it comes to self-care as a Black woman and what you need to do going forward. I'm going to give you 3 simple, actionable processes you can engage in and things to be aware of when you begin yourself. First, you're going to need to do some mind work. What do I say? You're going to need to start doing the mind work. You're going to need to set aside time where you mentally, and arguably this is not something that's entirely comfortable or easy to do. For some, it might even be triggering, but it is necessary when you begin your self-care journey as a Black woman. You are going to need to decolonize your mind. That's right. All of that internalized anti-Blackness, those internalized structures of racism. Because let us be honest, if we're truly being honest with ourselves, Living in a toxic environment, an environment that's built on racism from its very inception, there is no way that existing as a Black woman in this environment does not impact you on a mental level. It's time to unpack that in order to have a successful, sustainable, and empowering self-care journey, self-care practice. So first, yes, you're going to need to do the mind work. Next, you'll need to get a set of strategies or tools. If you need help, you know where to get that. Right here with me or someone else. But bottom line, it's going to need to be with someone who is culturally cognizant of the issues surrounding Black women, surrounding Black women's existence, and just overall living while Black. And that is a global phenomenon, but all of that too is regional. So if it's on the continent, there's different strategies and adaptations that need to be implemented on that end. Or if you're in the diaspora, particularly here in North America, you're going to need to work those strategies out, that plan out. Yes, it sounds complicated, but really it's not once you make the commitment to prioritize yourself and get off the altar of other people's expectations. So that's 2. Number 3, community. Community. It's super important. Now, that community doesn't have to be large. There are some large groups of Black women online that are considered safe spaces because it's gate kept for us. But then you can do this on a local level too. People that you trust, women who are also doing the work and are honest and vulnerable and safe. You're going to have to make those decisions in terms of who's safe, who's not, because let us be sincere. Pygmishas are a thing. So are the handmaids of racism and patriarchy. And that is not relevant just for non-Black women. It is something that women have to address globally as a collective as well. We have those same agents and ops in the Black community. Let us keep it honest and let us keep it real. So that is super important too. Now, moving forward, all of these 3 things are shaped, molded, based on your own personal strategic plan for moving forward, for your own growth, for your own healing, for your own self-care journey, and what that looks like for you. I will never lie and say one size fits all. That's why I focus on adaptive self-care strategies for Black women, because I understand that we all have different situations that we're dealing with, certain lifestyles that, while they need to incorporate self-care that is relevant for us as Black women, I also understand that everyone's situation is different, and that's why it's super important to have a team to help you with that, help you navigate that, at least at the beginning, and community. So I hope this helps, and thank you for joining me here. Please don't forget to click that notification button, hit the subscription button as well. Follow me on all of the socials, share your thoughts and ideas too, and your questions, and I will do my best to answer and address them as much as possible. Thank you. Tonier, the self-care maven, once again. Look better, feel better without the pressure of other people's expectations. Rise, my sisters. It is time to rise.